Good morning, my sweet little Kit Kats. We are going to make some faux rice paper today using a napkin. I have some Saran Wrap here that I'm just wrapping and taping around a spare piece of cardboard that I had kind of laying around here. So you just want to wrap your Saran Wrap around there and tape it down. Get yourself a napkin and make sure you get it down to just the one ply. Just making sure I have that taped down really well. Now we're going to coat that whole Saran Wrap side on the front there with Mod Podge, and you want to be generous with this. I've never done this before, but this is what I've seen. So give it a generous layer there. It's perfectly fine if you have a few wrinkles in your Saran Wrap. There is my napkin. I'm getting rid of both of those plies there. You can save those. And now just laying that one ply down over that Mod Podge. Just taking a little brush there and kind of pouncing that down to help it lay down nicely. Just a little chippy brush. And now we want to coat that as well with another layer of Mod Podge. So here you want to be a little careful. Being that it's only one ply of a napkin, it's a little bit delicate. So I'm using a nice soft brush here. And again, a very generous layer, I would say, of the Mod Podge. Looking good. Now we have to let that dry completely. All right, I want to show you what this looks like. You can easily peel a corner and pull that napkin off, and this is what it looks like. Now you're probably thinking, Kelly, what can I do with this? Well, I have a little wooden tag here that I've painted in a sheepskin on the front side and a moss chalk paint on the back side. We are going to decoupage this down right over our wooden tag with our regular varnishing glue from Pentart. I've never done this before, so I'm excited to see how it goes. And just press that down like you would any rice paper or napkin when you're decoupaging. It's going down beautifully. I'm just going to cut off that excess, and then we're going to file away the edges there. I wasn't sure how those edges would file off, but they just go off beautifully, just like your rice paper or napkin would. And there I'm just cutting out the hole in my wooden tag. A couple of wrinkles, but I don't mind them. We're going to use some hard molding paste here through a stencil just to add a little bit of a 3D dimension here through a Tim Holtz lace stencil here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want some raised detail. And I'm just using a nice palette tool to spread that through my stencil. I'm going to be embellishing the wooden tag on the other side so you won't see that area as much, which is why I only do this side with the stencil. Pull that up gently. And I think that is so pretty. That needs to dry completely. We're going to just work on a few embellishing pieces. I have a little wooden butterfly that I've painted in Paint Couture Rosebud. I'm adding a little bit of gold wax paste around the edges. And in fact, later on, I decide the butterfly is just a little bit too big, and I end up going with a wooden heart instead. Just wanted to give you an idea of what you could do once you've made your faux rice paper. I'm also going in with a little bit of white gold on there. So pretty. We're going to use a little paper doily here and a little Victorian velvet distressed oxide just to kind of soften those edges and give it a little bit of that pretty pink color. They are great for embellishing on your tags. We are going to make a cute little bow. I have some paper flowers, and you can go in again with that same Victorian velvet just on the edges of the petals, just to soften that harsh white. I have a little paper frame there, and we'll use a little bit of vintage photo distressed oxide on the edges of that as well, just to kind of age it up just a little bit. I love how that looks. We'll take our mini Bodabra. I have several different pieces of lace and ribbon. A little piece of sari silk there. I have a little bit of a soft baby pink crushed velvet ribbon. So here we're just going to make the loops of our bow. These ribbon pieces and spools have come from various places, thrifting, on sale at Hobby Lobby. That one's just a bit of a satin white from the dollar store. A few pearls in there I think will be pretty. We're going to tie that off and come back in and make the lower portion of our bow and put those both together. Another piece of sari silk to tie off those end pieces. So now I'm just doing the tails. Using those same pieces of ribbon and lace that I did in the loops. And we're going to tie that off. And then we're going to join the two together. Sometimes I find this a fun way to make our bow. Seems to work out nicely for me versus doing it all at one time. Tying that nicely with a good knot in the back. Then you can fuss a bit with your pieces. I end up cutting some of those tails a little bit later on. Just kind of a messy bow. I want something to go in the middle of the bow, so I'm kind of looking in my stash here to see what I can find. I end up pulling out a piece of jewelry, a little vintage flower. That pairs nicely with the pink. It does have the backing, so I can attempt to push that through and close that back side of the pin. I do struggle here just a bit, but I do get it. This way I don't have to glue it on. I use a little tweezer there just to help me get that closed. There we go. We'll set that aside. Here is our tag with that molding paste all nice and dry. We're going to glue down our doily with the 3-in-1 glue here. I'm going to take our paper frame and glue that on top. have several pieces of leftover lace from our bow, so we're going to glue some on the bottom here and put it in layers. Another piece going right over that. I have a little strip of pearls that's going to go on the top. Just trying to create some good texture and depth here. Then I have some paper flowers. We're going to start assembling here. These little dried flowers come from Temu. I think they match nicely with our faux rice paper. They're very delicate, so I'm just using a little tweezers to lie those down over the glue. Super pretty pieces of dried flowers there. Just deciding where I want that one. And I'm going to hot glue that one right underneath. I find another one like it for the bottom portion. There is that wooden heart I painted in the color Basil from Paint Couture. I just decided that butterfly was a bit too big, so I'm using my Pent Dark Gold wax paste and a little stencil brush there just to go around the edges. Decide where I want that to go eventually. I have a few other little paper flowers, bits and baubles here we're going to attach. And hot gluing those down. I love how this is coming together. And I just keep snipping off and adding. I decide where I want that wooden heart to go. I have these little pit berries. You can just wrap them around the end of a paintbrush just to give them that curly Q look. I usually fold over the top so there's no sharp edge. So we're going to add a few of those also. Just adding another piece or two there. Just a little bit of hot glue is all that you need. Some extra little pieces, I'm just deciding if I want to use those or not. Sometimes lie it out before I go ahead and glue it down. I have some rhinestones here I think would be super pretty. In the center of some of those flowers, I'm using some diamond glaze to put those down. Some different crystal looking pieces, a few pink rhinestones, one super pretty green one on the center of that heart. Diamond glaze works great and sets up quite quickly when you're putting down your rhinestones. I decide I need a bit of greenery there. So just a little here and there pieces of faux greenery I'm adding. Just snipping them down to the length I need. I pull off a few leaves here and there. There is greenery in the pattern of that napkin, so I thought it would match nicely. Of course, my glue head is clogged. There we go. Just a few more rhinestones. I actually have some gold wire that you can do the same thing. Wrap it around the end of a brush to give it that curly cue. We're going to add a few of those also. I think it's a nice way to just add another element. It's a very soft wire, so you can push it together if you need to, make it a bit shorter. I like to give it a bit of a dry. It also helps to get rid of some of the threads from the hot glue. I have some baby's breath here. I add some little bunches that will give it a nice softness. And then just fan those out a bit once you get them glued in. I really love the way baby's breath looks in there. Just softens everything up. Also gives us a nice lighter color with everything else we have going on in there. And the baby's breath I actually got from Temu also. One last little bunch. Using that tweezers to just kind of help me place it where I need it. Another little dry, get rid of those glue threads. I decide I need one more pit berry there. I have an extra little piece of bling that I end up putting down, just a little bling trim for a bit of sparkle. So all your bits and bobbles are great places to use these. Then we're going to go ahead and add our bow. I'm going to pull the tails right through the back, through the hole on my wooden tag. We're going to use a little Gorilla Glue here and a bit of hot glue. Hold that in place for a moment. Here's where I cut a few of those tails just a bit shorter. I think this turned out so cute. You can use it in a little vignette in your decorating. I hope you guys liked it. Thank you so much for watching.